CVE 2019-25281, a high-risk local privilege escalation in NCP secure client and unquoted service path vulnerability in a widely used VPN client enables attackers with local access to gain full system control over Windows endpoints.
The vulnerability, catalogued as CVE 2019-25281 with CVS SV3.
1 score of 7.
8 high, resides in NCP Secure Entry Client version 9.
It is classified under CWE 428 unquoted search path or element.
The core flaw exists within the Windows service configuration for several critical components: NCP RWSNT, RWS RSU, NCP CLCFGs, and NCP sec, where the image path is not enclosed in quotation marks.
This configuration oversight allows a local attacker to place a malicious executable in a directory path that is passed before the legitimate service binary.
When the affected service starts, which occurs at system boot or via other triggers, the operating system executes the attacker's binary with local system privileges. This provides complete compromise of confidentiality, integrity, and availability CIA triad on the host.
The attack vector is local AV:L, requires low attack complexity AC:L and low privileges PR:L, and needs no user interaction UI:N.
The scope is unchanged S:\U, meaning the impact is contained to the local host, but the consequence of achieving system rights is severe.
As of the latest data published and updated 2026-02-04, there is no known exploitation in the wild, and the vulnerability is not listed on CISA known exploited vulnerabilities KV catalog.
However, the inherent characteristics of the flaw present a high risk for local privilege escalation LPV, making it a prime target for post-compromise activities and lateral movement within corporate networks.
The anatomy of an unquoted service path vulnerability, a classic Windows misconfiguration, resurfaces in enterprise security software, turning a basic access flaw into a total system takeover.
The technical background of this vulnerability is rooted in a long-standing Windows operating system behavior concerning how the Service Control Manager SCM interprets file paths for service binaries.
When a service's image path in the Windows registry
HK local machine /system /current control set /services contains spaces and is not wrapped in quotation marks, the SCM uses a specific logic to locate the executable.
It splits the path by spaces and attempts to execute the first valid token as an executable.
For example, the path like C:\program files /NCP secure client /NCP RWSNT.
EXE would be passed as first checking for C:\program.
EXE then C:\program files /NCP. EXE and so on.
An attacker with write permissions to a high-level directory like C:\/ can place a malicious file named program.
When the service starts, this malicious file runs with the service's account privileges, which in this case is the highly privileged local system account.
This matters right now because the affected software, NCP Secure Entry Client, is a VPN and remote access client used by organizations to provide secure network connectivity.
Compromise of this client does not just affect a single application, it provides a persistent, high-privilege backdoor on the endpoint.
In the context of modern cyber threats, where initial breaches often lead to credential harvesting and lateral movement, such a vulnerability is a powerful enabler for attackers who have gained a foothold, even with limited user rights.
The absence of known exploitation does not diminish the urgency. It represents a silent, high-impact risk in environments where the client is deployed.
Exploitation mechanics and organizational exposure. The attack path requires only local access, while the primary risk lies with standard corporate laptops and desktops running outdated client builds.
The most likely attack path is straightforward and highly reliable.
An attacker who has obtained local access to a Windows endpoint through phishing, stolen credentials, or a separate exploit can exploit this vulnerability to escalate privileges to system.
The precondition is minimal. The attacker must have the ability to write a file to a directory in the system's root path or a parent directory of the legitimate service binary that appears earlier in the unquoted path passing order.
No user interaction is required.
The malicious binary is executed automatically the next time the vulnerable service starts, which is typically at system boot, granting the attacker persistence and full control.
The scope of impact is local, but the consequence is a total compromise of the host.
Who is most exposed? Organizations with Windows endpoints running NCP Secure Entry Client 9.
2x are at direct risk.
This is particularly acute in corporate environments, where standard user laptops and desktops are deployed with this VPN software to access internal resources.
Systems that are misconfigured or where services are deployed via older unpatched builds are the most vulnerable targets.
The risk is amplified in networks where lateral movement is a key attacker objective, as a compromised endpoint with system privileges can be used to harvest credentials, disable security controls, and move to adjacent systems.
Technical details underscore that this is not a remote code execution floor, but a highly effective privilege escalation vector that turns a low privilege foothold into domain administrator level control on a critical asset.
Strategic mitigation and future vulnerability management, immediate path correction and vigilant monitoring are required, with a shift towards proactive service configuration hardening.
The future outlook for this specific vulnerability hinges on prompt organizational action, but it also serves as a case study in proactive security hygiene.
The immediate mitigation and prioritization steps are clear: to apply patched builds or upgrade to non-affected versions as provided by the vendor NCP.
If an immediate patch is not available, administrators must manually correct the unquoted service paths by adding quotation marks around the image path entries in the Windows registry for the affected services NCP RWSNT, RWSRSU, NCP CLCFD, NCP SEC.
Furthermore, organizations should enforce the principle of least privilege for local accounts and implement application whitelisting or code integrity checks to prevent unauthorized binaries from executing.
From a detection standpoint, security teams should scan service configurations for unquoted image path entries, monitor process creation events originating from service startup paths for unusual binaries, and cross-check Windows event logs for unexpected service executions or modifications.
The strategic verdict is that while the CVE is not currently known to be exploited, its high-impact characteristics warrant treating it as a priority 1 issue if exploitation data such as a KEV listing or an EP score greater or equal to 0.
5 emerges. More broadly, this incident highlights the critical need for robust change management and staging environment testing for service deployments.
The predicted consequence of inaction is the silent incorporation of this vulnerability into attacker playbooks for post-exploitation, making it a latent threat that could be triggered during a broader security incident.
The final assessment is that vulnerability management must evolve beyond patching to include configuration hardening of core Windows services, especially for security-critical software like enterprise VPN clients.